Hey guys, it's Brijette with San Diego Seed Company, and today I'm in the garden and it's July, and I'm going to do a special video on managing a July garden in zone 9 and 10. I'm really going to push that point because the tips and tricks and the things that I'm going to tell you come from my experience of over 15 years of growing in zone 9 and 10. And they're really specific to our climate, our weather patterns, and things that you're going to see in your garden. So if you live in zone 9 and 10, stick around so I can make your July garden one of the best. So July is a magical time in the garden because everything is so green and growing so quickly and it looks amazing. And if you're a new gardener, you might think the garden is on autopilot, but that's not actually the case. You have to do the work on the daily, which is what somebody told me once, and it's a very fitting term, so that you can keep on top of the things that are happening in your garden so August doesn't roll around and you go, oh man, those plants really don't look good. Do the work before the plants really need it. And in this video, I'm going to go through what all those steps are so that you can get through the hottest part of the year, which is August and September, and have the healthiest plants and the most bountiful harvest. Okay, so you're in your July garden in zone 9 and 10, and you're thinking things are going so well. The plants are pumping out tons of produce, the flowers are happy, but don't forget, there is work that needs to be done. So I'm going to kind of go through a couple of steps, starting with the most obvious. So in July, you really got to stay on top of harvesting, because if you don't, what happens? Things get way too big, way too quick. This is our Caroselli Leccesi, which is an amazing cucumber, and you really want it to be more like this size. Now, this is totally edible, but the bigger it gets, the more fibrous it gets, and it's just less tender and delicious. The famous one that we all know is squash, right? It gets out of control, and then before you know it, you're making so much zucchini bread because you're like, how much zucchini can I actually eat? So going out into your garden every single day with a little harvest basket is a good idea because you're going to harvest regularly, so you have a steady flow of produce for your kitchen. And every time you take a squash off the plant, you're relieving energy so that that plant can put it into new leaf growth, fighting off diseases, and putting out new produce for you. So the more you harvest, the more you're gonna get. So a classic example is cucumbers. They hide in the plant, and if they are left to get too big, they're gonna get bitter. Here's an example right here. Now this guy, it's still edible, but it's really a little too big. I don't want the plant to spend all this energy on this guy, making it this big, because I want young and tender, delicious cucumbers. Ooh, like this guy. Look at here. Look at the difference here. Absolutely still edible, but getting fibrous. And this is really the ideal stage. And the more I harvest them at this stage, I'm not gonna waste energy making it this big. So I know it's hard, but really during this time of the year, every morning, come out with your coffee, do a quick little peek through your plants and bring a basket and harvest goodies so that you have them. Now this time of the year, even though we have beautiful full sun, the temperature is great, irrigation's on, guess what's also growing too? Not just the plant, diseases are growing. You have to stay on top of managing them before they get out of control. Otherwise, you lose the battle. Now let's go take a look at something that I can show you as an example of what you need to prune now before it's out of control. So a common culprit in zone 9 and 10 gardens in July and throughout the summer, and really all year round, is powdery mildew. You can see this squash plant here looks absolutely amazing, but dun 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 dun, here we go. Here's some powdery mildew. Look, it's gonna happen in every single garden, no matter how careful you are. It's gonna happen because of our climate. But the beautiful thing is it's very easy to manage. At this point, all you're gonna wanna do is just prune this puppy off. Get rid of him. He's only gonna reduce more and more in energy, and he's going to be not healthy for the whole plant. So I'm gonna prune off these guys here. I'm gonna throw these away. I'm not gonna compost them, right? These bottom leaves here are only going to become more and more infected because they're sitting on the ground. Water's more likely to get on them. And as they become more and more shaded from the other leaves, they're gonna be less and less productive. So doing a little bit of pruning every day, you don't have to get out of control. You just wanna keep on top of managing it, because that's the best and organic way to manage powdery mildew in a garden. Now let me just point something else out here. This is a very common question we get. This squash plant here has these beautiful leaves that naturally have a little bit of change in their pigmentation. That is not powdery mildew. This is powdery mildew. And the way you know is, first of all, this won't rub off, and it's kind of silver looking. It's actually a part of the plant. This, it literally looks like some type of mold that's on the plant, and it rubs off, see? So we want to get rid of this guy. Oh, and look, great example. This is a fabulous example. I love this. At a glance, if you looked at this plant, you'd go, hey, it's pretty healthy. I got one little leaf here. I'm gonna prune that. Oh no, uh-oh. You start looking, look down in here. There's even more. And this is why we do a little bit of work throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the whole summer to stay on top of this before this starts to take over the whole plant. One of the most common gardening proverbs is the best thing in a garden is a gardener's shadow or a gardener's footprint. What does that mean? Basically, spend time in your garden, get into the plants. Now, if I wasn't harvesting every day, if I was only harvesting once a week, I would get squashes that were too big. I would let this powdery mildew get out of control. And in general, the plant is not going to be as happy because I'm not going to notice problems before they become really big problems. So get out there and enjoy the garden because that's going to be one of the best things for your plants and for your production. The other thing that you should be doing in a July garden is staying on top of moisture retention for the soil. Especially a West Coast Zone 9 and 10 garden is so hot and so dry. Everything you're doing during the summer should focus on keeping moisture in the soil so that your plants can thrive. Now, part of that is running your irrigation. We've got some here. Regularly, you are going to have to up the frequency and the duration of it during the hottest months, which is July, August, and September. Now, I can't give you a specific number because everybody's irrigation systems are different. The flow rate is different, the configuration is different. Look at the plants. The plants are going to tell you, do they need more water? Now, because we live in an area of the United States where water is very scarce, you need to be responsible about the water that you use as well by doing anything you can to keep the moisture you put in the ground in there. Now, part of how we do that is mulch. You can see here, this plant, we kind of missed the spot. There's no mulch here. Look how dry this is. I mean, it's bone dry. Mulch is an amazing component to put in your garden because it's going to reduce the temperature of the soil, which means less evaporation of moisture. Plants are going to be happier, and it's going to hold in the moisture that you do put into the soil for a longer period of time. So during July, August, and I know it's hot months and it's a hard month to do physical labor in the garden, but those are great months to continue to add nice layers of mulch throughout the garden. And we add mulch everywhere. It's on the paths, it's on top of the beds. I mean, literally every single inch of growing space has some type of mulch on it because it's going to protect the soil from high temperatures, erosion, and excessive drying out. So the last thing that I want you to focus on for your July garden tasks in Zone 9 and 10 is succession planting. A common mistake gardeners make in Zone 9 and 10 is they go all gangbusters in May and in June, and July rolls around, and I mean, look at the garden, it looks stunning. But that doesn't mean your work is over, especially if you want long periods of harvest of vegetables and flowers. You have to continue to plant because over time, the stuff that you planted in March or April is going to putter out, and you need to have a plant to replace that. That's called succession planting. You can either go by a very strict regimen, or you can do what I do and just kind of start seeds all the time and always have something to put into the garden. A good example here is we just put in some basil, and we basically just had an empty spot in the garden, and we looked around and we said, what else do I need to plant? I don't have any basil. And so these guys are gonna go in, and basil is a good example of a late season crop that you can plant because the flowers that happen on basil actually happen as the days are getting longer. So these are going to grow, and we have to stay on top of pinching them. Otherwise, we're going to get lots of flowers on here, which we want leaf production. But if you continue to succession plant these into the fall when the days are getting shorter, you'll have less flowers on your plant, which means bigger, healthier, bushier basil plants for lots of pesto. So it doesn't matter what you're planting as long as it's in season. Basically from now until August, you're gonna focus on warm season crops. So we can continue to succession plant herbs, squashes, cucumbers, I mean, you name it. Anything that is a warm season crop, you can continue to seed now to replace any failing plant in the garden. So in July, you gotta harvest as much as possible, because think about it. If you started your seeds in February, you spent February, March, April, May, June, you spent 5 months already obsessing over your garden, and now is the time to reap the benefits. We have just a small selection of some of the stuff that we've harvested here, from our market date cucumbers to our striata to our Caroselli Licesi, such a beautiful cucumber. Do something with them. Don't just give them away. Make sure you preserve them. We actually sell online a refrigerator pickle mix, which is so easy. You just basically dilute it with water and vinegar. You put it in a mason jar, you stick it in the fridge. You don't have to do something complicated like canning or jarring it. In our household, pickles do not last that long, so there's no reason for us to actually can it. I'm gonna try one here. You can see that fresh dill. Now, the beautiful thing too is if you make something like this, gifting this is the coolest thing you can do. We also have homemade pesto. It freezes really well. It's an easy thing to make. Break this out in November around Thanksgiving and you have something beautiful from the garden. So remember, a July garden is about enjoying the beauty of the garden and also preserving it, because even though more stuff will continue to grow through August and September and onward, right now we are in the peak of summer when things are growing at its fastest rate, and it's only going to continue to get slower. So take advantage, harvest often, watch for diseases, make sure you have enough irrigation, especially in the hotter parts and the drier parts of zone 9 and 10, and enjoy the garden. You did all this work. Now enjoy the benefits. Okay, so if you're a grower in zone 9 and 10, please subscribe to our channel, especially if you're a beginning gardener and you're looking for tips and tricks to avoid the most common mistakes that you make in the garden. I would also love it if you commented on this video and tell me, what do you have growing in your July garden, and what are the things that you do every summer that make a big difference on keeping your garden healthy and happy. So remember, July is the time when you're going to the beach and you're hanging out and you're having so much fun, but do not forget that there are some key things that you need to be doing in your garden. You need to make sure that your irrigation is turned on and potentially turned up if you're in a really hot area, zone 9 and 10. You need to add mulch, you need to stay on top of disease control and pruning. All of those things are really gonna make your garden as healthy and as happy as possible, and is gonna guarantee that you're gonna have a good, bountiful harvest all the way through August and even into September.